Sansui 5000A. Next up for a gear review. So here we have a Sansui 5000A. I forgot to date this one, so I'll look up the serial number if I remember and let you know when about this one was made. But you're looking at late 60s, early 70s for this one. I'm just pulling up my little note sheet on this right now. You'd think I'd be prepared, but why? All right, so we have a Sansui 5000A, 69 to 1970 when these were manufactured. Capacitor coupled goodness, 55 watts per channel into 8 ohms. Dimensions, weight, pretty big, but not ginormous, not gigantic. So this was a top of the line receiver depending upon the year that you look at. So I was able to find a couple of different catalogs from 1969 and 1970. And let me go over, number one, I'll go over the 5000 variations so you kind of understand what I meant by depending upon the year, it could be top of the line. There was some overlap between the 5000 and the 5000A for sure, and possibly the 5000X. I found a hard cutoff between the 5000A and the X, but that doesn't mean that that's so, right? I can only go by so much of what I find on the internet. What I found was 5000s manufactured between 68 and 69 at 40 watts per channel. Again, capacitor coupled. I found 5000As manufactured between 69 and 70 at 55 watts per channel. I found 5000Xs manufactured between 71 and 72 at 60 watts per channel. So you had three different flavors of a 5000. The 5000, 5000A, the 5000X. Other receivers, again, depending upon the year, and right now I'm going to focus on the 1969 product catalog that I found. Listed in that product catalog were the Sansui 4000, which I've talked about so many times as being one of the best receivers for the money, right? It's up there with Marantz 2230 and the Sony STR6050 and the Pioneer SX737, right? Those are just receivers that outpunch their weight. That doesn't mean the 5000 is a slouch by any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, the 4000, the 2000, the 800, and the 350 were listed in the product catalog that I found this morning. I think all of those came with or without a wooden cabinet, but here's the weird thing. So like Marantz's, a lot of times I'll get a Marantz across the bench that doesn't have the wooden cabinet. Sansui's, I almost always have them in the wooden cabinet. Even though it's a wooden cabinet and then there's a metal, right? There's a metal cabinet underneath. It's weird that I almost always see these in the wooden cabinet. So depending upon the year, you had a couple of different Sansui receivers to choose from. I recall, and here's the weird thing about this one. So this one came in, and there's another tech that I haven't personally met, but the shop owner knows him, and he will work on gear, and then it'll find its way to the shop, whether he brings it or someone else brings it. And this one came in from an individual who got it from that technician, and the technician said that basically he converted this into a 5000X, and I didn't know what that meant. I don't know if it's just the preamp boards that were known to catch fire that you need to replace. But I don't remember 5000As having the colored dial pointer here, but I could totally be wrong. I could be thinking of the 4000 or the 5000. But I remember the 5000Xs always have a different kind of color scheme going on in the front. And again, maybe I'm comparing it to the 4000. I don't know. If I could find some images of lit up 5000s, other 5000As and 5000Xs to kind of explain what I'm trying to communicate to you, I will do that. But this looks like a 5000X to me. So aesthetics on these, I solidly Sansui, right? There's no question who made this receiver. It looks like a Sansui, right? Just like a Marantz looks like a Marantz, and a Pioneer, for the most part, looks like a Pioneer. This definitely is a Sansui. Capacitor coupled, so it's got a mellow tube-like sound. As mentioned, 55 watts per channel. Hookups are easy. I love the spring-loaded speaker terminals in the back. You could run 3 sets of speakers, not at one time, but you can connect 3 sets of speakers. Operation is pretty easy, so I like how the controls are laid out. Power, speaker selector, low and high filter, split bass, split treble, or treble. I always say treble. Split bass, split treble, so you can set the bass and the treble differently for the channels left and right. Volume control, balance, tape monitor A and B. Then you have tape head, right? So I believe that's kind of like there's a preamp in there. Phono, one phono, AM, FM auto, and auxiliary. So this is right now on FM auto. As you could see when I kind of prematurely did that, when you're on anything other than a tuner, like AM or FM, all the dial lights go black, and I don't like that. It's one thing I don't like about Sansui. There's a mod for the 4000s. I know how to do that one. I don't know how to do it on the 5000. But basically, you jump part of this switch here, and then the lights will stay on the 4000. So going back to what we have going on here, we have, right? So there's the tuner knob, mono, reverse, FM stereo only, muting off, and then loudness. So controls are laid out rather nicely. One thing that I don't care for on the Sansui 4000, 5000, 2000 is if I hid these, which one is the volume control? Right, well, I mean, if I took all these images away, you could not pick out the volume control, or across the room, you could not pick out the volume control. What I've done on these is I take a little piece of blue tape and put it here, right? So that way I know where the volume control is very quickly, and I don't have to bend down, get down, and see where the volume control is. The only thing I don't care for on these receivers. They sound great. I think they look really nice. I really love, especially on the 5000X, I love the different colors that they use. For the dial, the lamps, you know, naturally this has LEDs behind it, that's why it's so bright. But I really like the color scheme on the 5000Xs, and again, I think this isn't a 5000A, but as mentioned earlier, I don't know what converting this to a 5000X means. Serviceability, I would say these are intermediate. For issues, in terms of issues, you know, you have to replace this, or common issues. I think FM being sketchy on these is kind of a common issue. I don't know if that's attributed to a coil or an integrated circuit or something like that. I just did a product review on a Pioneer 1000 SX or SX 1000 TD, and I was pulling in stations left and right in stereo. Here I even actually have a little tiny bit of, it's not really an FM antenna, but someone had fashioned an FM antenna, and I'm not getting any stereo separation. I am in my garage, but the tuner on this just isn't, it's not up to Pioneer standards. That's all I can say. The 1000 pulls in stations much better. Nowadays, who cares? Not a lot of people listen to FM, but you know, it is something that you have to consider. So FM issues, possibly. Beyond that, you're looking, as far as I know, as far as I could tell, as far as my research indicates, my experience, you're looking at normal things that tend to fail on a 60-year-old receiver, 50-year-old receiver. Out of spec caps, failing transistors, that's kind of it, right? So those are the big things. The occasional resistor that wants to freak out, right? Or something that just kind of freakishly happens. I believe these had the bad preamp boards that should be replaced. These were replaced. There was an issue where they would burn up, and I'll include a little link to Audio Karma or something that talks about the bad boards and then the new boards. So there was like a service bulletin that came out, and you could get it repaired, and then there was a change. I think it might have been the 5000 that suffered from that. It may have been the 5000A that rectified that, or the 5000 and the 5000A had it and then the X rectified it. Regardless, I'll put some information up here. I'm just kind of going by memory, and I forgot to kind of nail that down this morning before I lugged this thing down here and started talking about it. So just keep that in the back of your mind. When you're looking for one of these, right, what are some things you want to pay attention to? Well, number one, does it have a cabinet? So cabinets add $100, right? Plus or minus $100. So I'm always going to price these with the cabinet included. So take that as, you know, with a grain of salt. But naturally, the condition of the cabinet, this one's pretty good. It's got some there's no veneer missing, or there's no, wood chips or anything like that. It does have some kind of deeper, not scratches, but kind of groove scratches in there. But no corners are busted or anything. So it's relatively clean. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably at least a 7 or an 8. So it presents well. You could find knobs for these. That's not too hard. You can find these, button caps or the assemblies for these. That's not too hard. So really, when you're looking for one of these, it's how does it present? The cosmetic condition and whether or not it has a cabinet. And then naturally, if they mention FM, if they take a picture, are you getting FM stereo separation? Is the little FM stereo light illuminated? Right, or is that not working? So that's a big one. I think that's about it on these. I mean, really, it just comes down to kind of what you see. And then naturally the condition, but you can't really, what does serviced mean? I've talked about this in other videos. If someone says, oh, it's been serviced, well, does that mean somebody cleaned the pots and they wiped down the face? Or did they go in and, change all the transistors and caps that had drifted out of spec? So anyway, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole this morning, or that rabbit hole. All right, so completeness condition, make sure everything is there, and then naturally the cabinet. What might you expect to pay for one of these? Now, what I've found in my experience with these, we sell these, they come into the shop quite often. There's a price disparity. It's a couple $100. It's $200 to sometimes $300 more for a 5000X versus a 5000 or a 5000A. 5000A, they're roughly the same price. In my experience, the 5000s may be worth a little bit less, but it's not the hundreds of dollars, right, that the 5000X, right, demands as a price jump. It may be more like $50 or maybe $100 is what I've found. So, but again, that's just my experience in Omaha, Nebraska. When you're pricing these, if you go out to eBay, and I pulled down some sales this morning. Now, one thing, all the 5000s are lumped all together, so you have to kind of pick through and figure out what's going on. But for a 5000A, in recapped, pristine condition, box, manuals, right? All of that stuff, perfect working order, lights, everything's complete. Even this has a little tiny bit of paint that's chipped off right there. If that wasn't there and the cabinet was in perfect condition, this could go for more than $500. $500, $600 would be a reasonable price for this. And again, without the cabinet, knock off $100 probably. So easily 5,000 or more. One in this condition is kind of hard. So it presents beautifully. Some things have been done. I think the median price, right, for one that's working, that's not beat to snot, is around $350. But that could very easily go to $400, could go to $450, could go down to $300, right? Could go down to $250 if it's a 5000. Again, I'm talking about the 5000A, but see where it's kind of hard to gauge these. So I kind of split the difference on this, and I said, probably around that $350 range, right? That $350 price point. And I could see this as much as $400, as little as maybe $325. It just kind of depends, right? I recommend a price to the shop owner. Normally he just goes with whatever I say, but sometimes he'll, because it's his equipment, he'll mark it the way he wants to. But about 9 times out of 10, he's just like, yeah, that sounds good. So what would I price this at? I would put this out at $400 because it is very, very clean. Maybe even $425 because it's very, 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 very clean. For parts, again, for a 5000A, I found parts units that sold for less than $150, and some of those were in the cabinet. So, naturally, when I go to edit this 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, the prices may be a little bit different. I may not be able to find some good images. I mean, I should see what I saw today, unless it was a really old sale. But, I wouldn't pay more than $200 to get one of these. You can find it for $150 all day long. Maybe not all day long, but if you're patient, you can find them for $150 and you won't have to wait 6 months to do it. So you can find them at a decent price. So the spread on this was $150 to $550, right? That 350 is kind of almost smack dab in the middle, kind of close to the middle, right? Naturally, as always, your mileage may vary where you live and what the availability is locally, but you know, that's kind of where I see these landing. Great receivers, sound phenomenal. One thing I like about the Sansui, to me, has kind of a signature sound. They have a little more low end. So like if I were to compare this to the SX1000, right? And I've had both these on my bench within a day of each other. The SX1000 TD, cap coupled sound, 50 watts per channel, not a lot of low end, but it sounds phenomenal, right? This sounds phenomenal, has a little bit more low end, is what I noticed. Now, that can be attributed to anything, but I've noticed with Sansui 4000s and 5000s, I think all of the ones that I've worked on, they tend to have a really rich low end. So I like that. I think I prefer that sound, but I love the Pioneer SX1000. I love everything about it. And I love how that sounds. So it's kind of like your mileage may vary, again, depending upon the unit that you come across and what's been done to it. So there you have the Sansui 5000A, fantastic receiver, beautiful receiver. You can't go wrong with one of these. You're not going to pay out the nose for some outstanding sound quality and product quality. I really can't say enough about it. I think I did a 5000X video, so you might want to check that one out if you're in the market for one of these and you're doing your market research. You know, the reason why I started doing these gear reviews is because I would just get a wild hair and I think, oh, you know, I'm out on Audio Karma and I see a post about some piece of equipment and then I start looking for it, right? One of the first things I would do though is I would look for a YouTube video where someone just talked about them. So that's why I started doing these. Just my experience with it in terms of using and hooking it up and maybe servicing it or working on it or repairing it or you know, pricing it for the shop, what I see these going for. That's why I started doing these, and they seem to be popular, so I'll continue to do these. My schedule right now, I have a year's worth of content, so you won't even see this until 1 year from now, roughly. And I do these. I release on Fridays, and every other week I do a gear review, and the off weeks I do service videos. So yeah. So anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching the channel. Love the comments. Keep them coming. Keep watching the videos. As always, if you like what you see, hit subscribe. Hit notify if you like when I put something out there. I got a Halloween. So spoiler alert. It's October 30th. You're probably going to see this not quite a year from now, probably sometime in July or August, maybe. My service videos, I have more of those in the queue than gear reviews. So my service videos go all the way out to November of next year, I think. But anyway, I'm releasing a Halloween AR turntable thing, Franken table that I cobbled together with random parts in the garage. Is just kind of a fun thing to do for Halloween. So anyway, so other like videos like that, I'll just kind of release on certain days or whatever. But okay, I'm rambling. Thanks for hanging in there. I'll see y'all later.